Hello, listeners. Today we have a revenge story, but this revenge you've never heard before. Let's start. Carolyn and I were the epitome of success. She, with her flair for art curation, and I, a venture capitalist with a Midas touch. Our love story was one for the ages. From our chance meeting at a charity gala to our whirlwind romance, we were the couple others aspired to be. Our bond seemed unbreakable. One evening, as Carolyn and I reminisced about old times, she brought up her recent school reunion and the joy of reconnecting with past friends. Among them was Daniel, her partner in crime from her school days. I remembered him from her tales of youthful escapades. Having never met him, I suggested, why not invite him over for dinner? It would be great to finally put a face to the stories. Carolyn hesitated for a brief moment, then smiled. That sounds like a wonderful idea. The following week, our home was filled with the aroma of a sumptuous meal. As the doorbell rang, Carolyn rushed to answer, her excitement palpable. There he was, Daniel, with his charismatic smile and a bottle of wine in hand. The evening started off pleasantly, with stories of their shared past and laughter echoing in our dining room. However, as the night progressed, I began to notice subtle nuances. The lingering glances between Carolyn and Daniel, their inside jokes, the way their hands brushed against each other while passing dishes. There was an intimacy, a familiarity that went beyond mere friendship. The atmosphere grew thick with tension, at least for me. During dessert, as Carolyn and Daniel laughed over a shared memory, their hands met and lingered just a second too long. That moment, fleeting as it was, spoke volumes. I felt like an outsider in my own home, a spectator to a play I hadn't scripted. The days following the dinner were blur. The once familiar rhythm of our life had been disrupted, replaced by a tension that was almost tangible. Every stolen glance, every whispered phone call, every unexplained absence added to the growing storm inside me. One evening, I met my old friend Adrian at our regular haunt, a quiet bar with dim lighting and plush leather seats. Over drinks, I poured out my fears and suspicions. Adrian, ever the voice of reason, listened intently, his brow furrowed in concern. "Victor," he finally said, taking a sip of his whiskey, "before you let your imagination run wild, you need concrete evidence. Have you thought about checking her phone?" The idea had crossed my mind, but I had dismissed it, feeling it was a breach of trust. But now, trust was already in question. Adrian continued, "Wait for an opportune moment, maybe when she's in the shower or out for a jog. Just a quick look, to either confirm your suspicions or put your mind at ease." The next morning, the opportunity presented itself. Carolyn, wrapped in her robe, headed for the bathroom, leaving her phone on the bedside table. My heart raced as I picked it up. I knew her passcode, we had always been open about such things. I quickly navigated to her messages. And there it was, a thread with Daniel. Their exchanges were intimate, filled with shared memories, secret rendezvous plans, and declarations of feelings. It felt as if a cold hand had gripped my heart, squeezing the life out of it. I replaced the phone just as I heard the shower turn off. My mind raced, trying to process the enormity of the betrayal. The evidence was clear, and the pain was raw and real. That evening, as Carolyn chatted about her day, I played the part of the attentive husband. But inside, a storm was brewing. With every word she spoke, the resolve to make them pay for their deceit grew stronger. The days after discovering the messages were haze. I found myself oscillating between moments of piercing clarity and overwhelming confusion. The home that was once my sanctuary now felt like a stage, where every interaction was a rehearsed act, every smile a mask hiding the turmoil within. I took Adrian's advice to heart. Instead of confronting Carolyn immediately, I decided to play the waiting game. I observed, cataloged, and analyzed. Every late-night phone call she took in hushed tones, every sudden plan to meet a friend, every secretive glance exchanged with Daniel when they thought I wasn't looking. It was all being mentally noted. One evening, as I was returning from work, I decided to make an unscheduled stop at Carolyn's art gallery. I wanted to surprise her. But as I approached, I saw them. Through the large glass windows of the gallery, I saw Carolyn and Daniel, engrossed in a deep conversation. Their body language spoke volumes, the closeness, the lingering touches, the shared laughter. It was a dagger through my heart. I retreated before they could see me, my mind racing. The pain of betrayal was now coupled with a burning desire for revenge. They had taken something precious from me, and I vowed to make them pay. Over the next few days, I began to lay the groundwork for my plan. I reached out to contacts in the art world, subtly dropping hints about potential forgeries in Carolyn's gallery. I knew this would create a ripple of doubt in the community, potentially jeopardizing her reputation. Simultaneously, I began to dig into Daniel's finances. Through contact, I discovered that he had recently made a significant investment in a startup. With my influence and resources, I could ensure that this venture would not see the light of day. But it wasn't just about financial or professional ruin. I wanted them to feel the emotional and psychological pain they had inflicted on me. I began to sow seeds of doubt in their relationship. Anonymous gifts, letters, and messages designed to make them question each other's loyalty. As the days turned into weeks, I watched from the shadows as my plan began to unfold. The once confident Carolyn was now a bundle of nerves, her gallery facing scrutiny, and her relationship with Daniel strained. Daniel, on the other hand, was feeling the financial pinch, his dreams crumbling before his eyes. Carolyn's once thriving gallery was now a sinking ship. The whispers of forgeries had done their job, and her once loyal clientele now viewed her with suspicion. I watched her, day after day, trying to keep her head above water, defending her integrity to anyone who would listen. But the art world is fickle, and her fall from grace was swift and brutal. Daniel's situation was even more dire. His startup, which he had poured his heart and soul into, was on the brink of collapse. Key contracts had been snatched away, and the negative press had scared away potential investors. The man who once walked with an air of confidence now looked defeated, the weight of his failures evident in his every step. But it was the rift between Carolyn and Daniel that gave me the most satisfaction. The anonymous gifts, the insinuations of infidelity, the veiled threats, they had all played their part. Their once passionate affair was now a cauldron of mistrust and accusations. The bond they had shared, the bond that had caused me so much pain, was now their undoing. One evening, as I sat in the dimly lit study surrounded by the trappings of my success, a bottle of the finest scotch by my side, I allowed myself a moment of reflection. Some might say that the path of revenge I had chosen was dark, that it would lead to my own downfall. But in that moment, all I felt was a cold, calculated satisfaction. They had wronged me, and now they were paying the price. Adrian's warnings echoed in my mind, but they were easy to dismiss. He didn't understand the depth of the betrayal, the raw pain that had driven me to this point. To him, and to the world, I was still Victor, the successful businessman, the loving husband. But beneath that veneer, I was a man transformed, driven by a singular purpose to settle the debts of the past. As the days turned into weeks, I watched my plan unfold with clinical detachment. Every move, every decision, was calculated to inflict maximum damage. And as Carolyn and Daniel's world crumbled around them, I felt no remorse, no sympathy. They had made their choices, and now they were facing the consequences. The penthouse was buzzing with activity. Soft jazz played in the background, the aroma of roasted chicken wafted through the air, and the table was set for 3. I, Victor, had decided to host an impromptu dinner, inviting both Carolyn and Daniel. The atmosphere was light, filled with laughter and casual banter. It was almost as if everything was normal. As we sat down to eat, I regaled them with a hilarious anecdote from a recent business trip, making them laugh till they had tears in their eyes. The wine flowed freely, and the evening was shaping up to be quite enjoyable. After dessert, as we moved to the living room for after-dinner drinks, I decided it was time to drop the bombshell. With a mischievous glint in my eye, I began, "You know, it's funny how life works. Sometimes, things just fall into place, almost as if someone's pulling the strings from behind the scenes." Carolyn and Daniel exchanged puzzled glances but laughed it off, attributing my words to the effects of the wine. I continued, like, for instance, the rumors about the forgeries in the gallery, or the sudden financial troubles of a certain startup. It's almost as if someone planned it all. The room grew silent. The realization slowly dawned on them, their faces turning from confusion to horror. With a smirk, I added, "Oh, and by the way, Carolyn, I want a divorce." Carolyn's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Daniel, on the other hand, looked like he had seen a ghost. The weight of the situation, the sheer audacity of my plan, left them speechless. I leaned back, savoring the moment. "Don't even think about playing the blame game. Trust me, you don't want to see what else I'm capable of." The evening, which had started on such a light note, had taken a dramatic turn. But amidst the shock and disbelief, there was a hint of admiration in their eyes. They had underestimated me, and now they were paying the price. With a final toast to new beginnings, I ended the evening, leaving Carolyn and Daniel to grapple with the aftermath of my revelation. The penthouse, which had just moments ago echoed with laughter and music, was now eerily silent. The weight of my revelation hung in the air like a thick fog, casting a shadow over everything. Carolyn, her face pale and eyes red from crying, began to pack her belongings. Each item she placed in her suitcase was a painful reminder of our life together: the photo from our honeymoon in Santorini, the trinket we bought on our trip to Paris, the necklace I had gifted her on our first anniversary. With every piece, a chapter of our life was being closed. Daniel, who had initially been paralyzed by shock, now wore an expression of anger and betrayal. "Carolyn," he hissed, "how could you drag me into this? You said he would never find out." Carolyn looked up, tears streaming down her face. "I never thought he'd go this far, Daniel. I thought our love was strong enough to weather any storm." Daniel scoffed. Your naivety has cost me everything. My business, my reputation, everything I worked so hard for. I can't be associated with this mess any longer. Carolyn reached out, grabbing his arm in a desperate plea. Daniel, please, don't leave me. We can start over, build a life together. But Daniel pulled away, his face hardening. This is where our paths diverge, Carolyn. You're on your own. As he made his way to the door, Carolyn's voice, filled with desperation, stopped him. Daniel, please, promise me one thing. Don't tell my parents about this. They think the world of Victor, and this would break their hearts. Daniel paused, taking a deep breath. Fine, I won't say anything. But this is the last favor I'm doing for you. With that, he walked out, leaving Carolyn alone in the midst of the chaos. I watched from a distance, the satisfaction of my revenge tinged with a hint of sadness. The life we had built together was now in ruins, and while Carolyn was undoubtedly at fault, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for her. But the decision had been made, and there was no turning back. As Carolyn left the penthouse for the last time, suitcase in hand, I knew it was the end of an era. The chapter of Carolyn and Victor was closed, and a new one was about to begin. Update 5 years ago. Okay, a lot of people ask what happened after that. So, Daniel moved to Europe, settling in a quaint town in the south of France. He embraced a simpler life, away from the hustle and bustle, opening a small bookstore and cafe. Not a startup, but anyway. Carolyn has her own small gallery in another city. We've never spoken again. Me and Adrian had invested heavily in a tech startup that directly competed with Daniel's venture. Why? Just for fun. But right now this startup is one of the leading names in the industry. Thank you for reading this. And this is the end of our story for today. Subscribe for more and see you soon.